The former governor of Minnesota, former pro wrestler, former Navy SEAL, the host of Conspiracy Theory, which will debut Wednesday night on True TV and about which we'll ask him in a few minutes. What do you make of the gatecrasher story, Jesse?
Well, Larry, I'll tell you, the concern I have is not over who did it, but how they were allowed to be let in, and so much for, the Patriot Act and national security, huh? I mean, if you can crash the White House... Well, if you can crash the White House like they did, obviously the Patriot Act and national security isn't working too well because that's the President of the United States. But on a serious note, Larry, I think the Secret Service has something to answer to here because ultimately it's their responsibility.
And what are your thoughts on the Tiger Woods situation?
Well, for me, I hope Tiger keeps quiet. I hope that Tiger does what he's doing right now because it truly is nobody's business. It was an internal thing, whatever it is, inside his house, on his property. He was never driving on a public street. I would do the identical same thing if I were in his shoes. I would say nothing. It will blow over in a week or two, and we'll all be fine when it's all over, and let Tiger have his privacy.
Now of a more important nature. President Obama will lay out his plans for Afghanistan major address West Point tomorrow night. CNN will follow it with major coverage. In fact, we'll be pushed back to being on at midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific because of that, but we'll be here. What are your thoughts on the possibility, apparently, that he's going to send 30,000 more troops?
Well, it angers me.
With an exit date.
Well, it still angers me because it reminds me a great deal of Vietnam. I mean, the Russians couldn't beat them. The English couldn't beat them over there. You are not going to get a military solution, in my opinion, in Afghanistan. It's impossible. And yet, we're just like Vietnam. Are we propping up a phony government like we did in Vietnam? Remember, if the United States blocked free elections in Vietnam, had there been elections in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh would have won in a landslide. Well, is this the same thing going on? We're propping up an unpopular government. We're sending our military in. And I'll tell you what should happen, Larry. We need an immediate Congress to pass a war tax. Because you know what? We're involved in 2 wars now, and this country is feeling no pain. Well, I got news for you. When you're involved in war, everyone should feel a little bit of pain. We need to pass a war tax to pay for this war, and I'm going to tell you something else. It's time to bring back the draft. Because these guys are on their 5th and 6th tours over there. And I used to be an advocate for a professional military. I'm not anymore because it's too easy for these people to take our young men and women to war and not account for it. And let's pass one more law, Larry. The next time the government votes to go to war, I think every congressman and senator should be required to pre-designate someone in their family begins immediate military service. Because I'm tired of these people voting to go to war, and then they have no dog in the fight.
Governor, would you leave them? If it was your decision, what would you do?
I would pull out of Afghanistan, I would pull out of Iraq, and I would bring our boys home. It's our job to protect their safety and not be sending them off to wars. What are we accomplishing there? I look at it from a personal viewpoint, Larry. I don't understand how these 2 wars have helped Jesse Ventura or the United States of America one bit, other than to drain our economy.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Jesse's new show, Conspiracy Theory, and then he'll be joined by Ben Stein and Ariana Huffington. We'll talk more about Afghanistan. More with Jesse after this. Jesse Ventura's new show, the title of which is Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, debuts Wednesday night on True TV. Here's a sample.
This is the infamous Hangar 17. This is a place where we've contacted on multiple occasions to go inside and see what they have inside this building, because there are remnants from September the 11th in there. Get up here! This is what they don't want me to see. We've tried to get in this building. We can't even get in it now. The door's locked. Or you can see girders, obviously from the 9/11 site. Why won't they give us access to this building? What is the reason for it?
Wow. You're going to do every week? How long is show on? Weekly?
Yeah, we're weekly, 1 hour a night, and for 7 weeks we will cover 7 different modern conspiracies that go back just within the last decade. We won't be covering John F. Kennedy or Dr. Martin Luther King or any of the stuff back then. We kept it to the 10-year last decade, and believe me, the problem, Larry, wasn't finding conspiracies. It was choosing which ones we wanted to cover.
Oh. What is the 9/11 conspiracy?
Well, the 9/11 conspiracy is simply that the government hasn't been truthful with us. I mean, Larry, a couple weeks ago, the head of the 9/11 Commission Legal, I believe he's former Attorney General Farmer from New Jersey, came out publicly and stated unequivocally that at some point the government decided that American citizens would not hear the truth about 9/11. I find that very disturbing.
Which is?
I don't know.
What truth?
Well, we can't find it naturally because I don't have subpoena power. We don't have the ability to put people under oath and threaten them with prosecution.
What would they be hiding in that building?
I don't know.
What do you think? In your wildest imagination, what do you think?
Well, in my wildest imagination, I find it very difficult that those buildings could fall at the speed of gravity without being assisted in some way. And I used to do demolition for a living. And how could those buildings fall as fast as I used to free fall out of an airplane? I mean, if you took a billiard ball and dropped it the height of the Twin Towers and you just merely stopped it and started it every floor in free fall, it would take over 1.5 minutes to reach the ground. The buildings were down in 10 seconds.
So you think it might have been something inside?
I think that most definitely our government has not been honest with us. I think, and here's the big point I make on 9/11. Why is it off limits to talk about it? Why is it off limits to question and ask questions? You know, when I went through UDT SEAL training, I was taught in demolition, Larry, that there is no dumb question. That if you don't understand it, it's not dumb. And that's how I've lived my life. And I have a lot of questions that the government refuses to answer.
Is the 9/11 story the first show this Wednesday?
No, it's not. The first show will be HARP. And it's based upon a book that a scientist wrote, and it says angels don't play this harp. It's about an antenna grouping that we have up in Alaska that's supposedly an unclassified research center. But if it's unclassified, why wouldn't they let me in?
All right, that's going to be something.
Well,
Jesse Ventura's new show, Conspiracy...
Larry, clearly they're not being honest, Larry, because if it was unclassified, I could get in.
I get you.
Okay.
The new show debuts Wednesday night on True TV. Arianna Huffington and Ben Stein will join the party. And they were invited. Next.